everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Taylor and welcome to my tower. So I think up first I actually want to kind of give you guys a little bit more information on the trip that I am currently on as you're watching this. If you're watching this on the day that I'm releasing it, I will be running in the Princess 10K tomorrow. As you guys probably already know because I'm sure I've been posting a lot on Instagram. We are flying down on Wednesday, which this is weird because it's the future for me but past for you. But we are flying down Wednesday the 21st, doing Animal Kingdom. Thursday is the Race Expo as well as Hollywood Studios. And then today is a rest day because tomorrow is our race and we'll be waking up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, me probably 1:30. So I'll be going to bed super early. But anyway, just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an itinerary as to what this week is looking like. And then the next 2 days will be park days for us as well. So stay tuned for that. Don't want to spoil those just yet, but they will be full park days after the race and the following day as well. So with all of that being said, let's get on into how I planned this trip. So my very first step whenever I book any trip is to determine a reason or like a certain festival or a certain time of year as to why I want to go to Disney. So obviously for this trip it was because we knew we wanted to do the Princess 10K, which is Saturday, February 24th. So we registered for this race, I think it was June 20th of 2023. So I've known about this trip for a very long time. But for me, the very first step was to guarantee my spot in the race, or else I probably wouldn't have even gone on this trip. So for you, if you are wanting to go for a specific festival, maybe you're doing a race in the future, or you know, you only have a certain amount of time of PTO to use on a certain week, and then you just know that that is going to be the week that you need to go. So just like kind of determining a time frame that you know you definitely want to be there, or if it's a certain event, make sure you get those tickets first because that will kind of determine your entire vacation. And if I have any flexibility when it comes to my vacation time, I will usually look for discounts on the Walt Disney World website. When it comes to booking hotels, they often have 25% off. I don't want to say majority of the year, but they do run that sale pretty often. A lot of times when I go, I do stay with family if I'm going with Brad. So this is really just kind of how I plan my trips when I'm with my friends, because it is very different than when I go with Brad. But in terms of like designing an entire vacation where I'm staying on property, this is what I would do. So yes, step number one for me is to have my specific reason. And if I don't have one and I have more flexibility, then I look for discounted hotel stays as well as flights. So my tip for getting discounted flights is definitely to purchase tickets at the airport if you are able to do so. I know for me, the airport that I fly out of most times is relatively cheap. It's a small airport, and so when I go there, I can usually get tickets for at least $20 off a person. And also you can just kind of keep an eye on Google Flights. That will tell you on the calendar exactly what dates are the cheapest for that entire month. And if you have more specific dates in mind, you can use Skyscanner, which will show you all of the flight options from cheapest to most expensive once you adjust your filters. I do all of my flight browsing in private mode, which is vital because if you do this in your normal browser, then the websites will start tracking that you're looking at prices and will eventually hike them up, which sucks. So make sure that you are viewing either in an airline specific app or in a private mode on your browser. So once I have my event booked, or at least the time of year that I want to go, the very first step is to book flights, because you can't really design your itinerary or your hotel stays if you don't really know what exact days you will need to be there. But then once I knew my specific flight times, I was able to go ahead and determine where we wanted to stay and book the hotel. So when it comes to booking hotels, I think it's best to do whatever is within your group's budget, whatever is suitable for the people in your group. So for example, one of my friends that I'm going with is not a real big fan of the Skyliner. So we were leaning more towards Pop Century, but since she's not a huge fan of the Skyliner, we just didn't think that it'd be worth it to kind of spend more money than we would at a value resort and then not really utilize the mode of transportation that is what makes that resort so expensive. So for us, it just made sense to stay at an all-star resort, and none of us have stayed at Music, so we figured it was a new thing to check off our bucket list, but also it is a resort that we're already familiar with. You're still really immersed in the Disney theming, which I love about the value resorts. I don't think that there's anything wrong with them at all. I'm actually a huge fan of the all-star resorts just because of, like I said, the theming, but also the fact that the rooms are just as nice and they're clean, and you still have that proximity to the parks. You still get the amazing Disney service, and you still have a food court, you still have the gift shop, so everything is still very Disney themed. I will say the only negative thing that I have experienced at the All-Star Resorts is a very low water pressure, which is not great for when you are just trying to take a quick shower and you have to be in there so much longer because the water pressure sucks. But yeah, overall, I do not really do many break days at a hotel. I don't think I've even ever done that, honestly. I would like to, but it just doesn't ever really work out in the cards for me when I'm going with my friends. But you can still have a great rest day at an All-Star Resort. There's not going to be nearly as much to do as a deluxe or a moderate resort, but you do still have a very big pool, and sometimes they will also do activities and stuff. You can also resort hop and just find other ways to be entertained on a rest day. But I do think that it is best to pick a hotel that is most suitable for your budget, for your itinerary, and for the needs of the people in your group. And I also wanted to mention, when it comes to booking hotels, if you are not an annual pass holder and you also are not using any type of military discount, I do think that when you are booking your hotel is also the best time to book your park tickets as well. So just kind of determining if you want to do either single day tickets or park hopper options, or I think you can do like a 4-day bundle. This is where you can also add on your photo pass if you wanted to as well, or your memory maker. I can't remember what they call it these days, but yeah, this is where you could book your tickets if you are paying full price for them. So for the most part, I do think that booking your tickets with your hotel is a great option because everything is just all under one booking, and you can also pay things off over time, which is really nice as well. The next step is to form a general itinerary. So we now have our reason, our flight, and our hotel all determined and booked. So now it is time to figure out what parks we want to do on what days, if we want to include a rest day at our resort, or if we want to park hop or go over to Springs or anything like that. So my rule of thumb when it comes to kind of determining my itinerary is I really do try to steer away from the parks on the weekends. Although it can sometimes be more expensive to fly on the weekends, I do think that maybe flying down on a Sunday, flying home on a Saturday could be really useful. That way you have those 5 days in the middle of the week to really kind of do the parks without the weekend crowds. And that also gives you the Saturday before your trip and the Sunday after your trip to really kind of rest and either pack or unpack, do laundry, whatever it is, just to kind of prep yourself and also decompress. So that is kind of the routine that I would prefer, but for this specific trip we were not able to do that. So we are doing a Wednesday to Monday trip, and unfortunately we will be doing the parks on both Saturday and Sunday. So I'm kind of being hypocritical here, but if I had an option, I would definitely not do the parks on the weekend, because any chance that I have to avoid the crowd, I take it. But other than that, I really don't have much of a criteria in terms of what park I should do on what day. It's just really kind of whatever the people in the group are feeling like doing, or just whatever would work best for our schedule. But I don't have like a have to go to DAC on the first day and have to do MK on the last day. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I just like to go and have fun. So now that my hotel, my flight, and my general itinerary is done, it is now time to kind of coordinate transportation. So I know one of my friends actually just brought up today that she was thinking of renting a car, but I don't think that it really makes sense for our specific trip because we only really need to Uber to and from the airport and then home from Sanaa because we have dinner reservations pretty late there. Overall, we'll just need 3 Uber rides, so not a huge expense, maybe just like over $100, but it will also be split 4 ways, so that is going to be significantly cheaper than renting a car. You can also do, I think it's called Sunshine Flyer. It's kind of like the old Magical Express, if you remember those days, but it is basically where you can just like book a time that you want to be picked up from the airport. It'll just be like a normal Disney bus that will take you from the airport to the hotel. And I think it's just like a flat rate of like $12 or $15, maybe $20. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've looked into this, but I do know that that is an option. You can do a minivan, which is Disney's private Uber essentially, but I do know that that is a pretty penny and I personally would not pay for that. So we will just be getting an Uber XL and then figuring out when we get there. But I know that some people like to rent a car, some people want to do the Sunshine Flyer, the minivan, just figure out what kind of mode of transportation is going to work best for you. So once transportation is added into my general itinerary, then it is time to sit down with my friends and figure out where we would like to dine for our trip. So we actually have quite a few advanced dining reservations or ADRs for this trip. And so that was really fun to kind of sit down, figure out where we were going to eat, and we coordinated our dining for where we were going to be. So, you know, we did Sanaa on our Animal Kingdom day because it just makes sense that we just go right over to Animal Kingdom Lodge after our day at DAC. And then we also booked Oga's Cantina for the day that we were in Hollywood Studios. We also have a reservation in Magic Kingdom. We have a reservation in Epcot. So we just kind of went through where we wanted to eat, and then 60 days prior to each of those days, I sat down and did all of our bookings, and we got pretty much everything that we wanted. So just make sure that if you are booking ADRs that you are on at, you know, sometimes even 5:30 I think is like the earliest they will release them. If you are on Eastern Standard Time, they do release dining reservations at 6 a.m, but I would get on maybe an hour earlier and just kind of refresh here and there because they are known to drop a few early. I was on right at 6 a.m. I got pretty much everything that we wanted, and so then once those reservations were secured, I went ahead and added those to my itinerary, and then from there we were kind of able to structure our day a little bit more because I needed to know what time of day we would get our reservations for, so that way we can kind of figure out what sections of the parks we want to be in and what rides we'll be doing and what shows we want to see and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the first thing that I do when it comes to actually like park plans is to start with the dining reservations. So now that everything is booked and determined and we have that general itinerary laid out, this is when I will kind of really hone in on making us a trip guide, I call it. So I will put on the screen an example of that. So as you can tell, I like to put kind of lines just kind of separating our days, and this is just a very detailed itinerary of, you know, what to expect, and just to kind of help all of us stay on track and just make sure that we're getting everything done that we need and want to. So Thursday, I have us getting up at 6:30, and this is the day that we are going to the Race Expo as well as Hollywood Studios. So we'll get up at 6:30 and get ourselves ready. That gives us about 2 hours until we need to leave, and also gets us up and ready to book our Genie times. So up first, I'm going to have us book Rise of the Resistance and Slinky because those are two of the hardest rides to get Genie for at Hollywood Studios. So we'll be booking those right away, one with individual Lightning Lane, one as a regular virtual queue. And then at 8:30 a.m. we can join our virtual queue for the race. So obviously that's when we'll be doing that. And then we will get on the bus and head over to the expo. And then I don't know if I have to necessarily read all of these points for you, but you can just tell that we will be going to the expo, and I'm kind of, you know, generally getting an idea for how long we'll be there and then what time we need to book our next Lightning Lanes as well. So really just everything that I need to know throughout the day, I will just put in a note. That way I can just kind of refer back to this and make sure that we're staying on track. And then I will also make notes at the bottom. So maybe if there's a certain snack I want to try, I will just write that there. If there is a certain ride that someone really wants to do, they can put it there. I have shared this note with my friends, so we all have access to it. I am just the one that makes the general guide for us to refer to. And I do this for every single day of the trip because it's really helpful for me, and it's also really helpful for my friends. If they have any questions, we can all just refer to this. So once my very detailed trip guide is completed, I will go ahead and start outfit planning. So the reason that I wait to outfit plan after this is because I like to know exactly what outfits I will want to wear for what ride or what section or what dining. Like, you just have to know what you're doing before you can plan your outfits. And in the future, I will do a whole video on how I plan my outfits because right now it is a very stressful process for me, and I want to make sure that I have all of my thoughts and tips gathered well, especially for creators, because I usually pack between 3 to 5 outfits a day, and it's just a lot for my suitcase. It's a lot for me. I have to envision where I want my photos taken and what accessories I'm gonna need. So it's just like a whole in-depth other concept that we can talk about another time. But for now, this is just the next step in how I plan my trips. So once my outfits are done, then it is time to kind of really relax and just kind of enjoy all of the hard work that I've already put into planning the trips. So for me, that is to watch a ton of Disney vlogs. It's something that I already do all day, every day, pretty much. So I just continue to do that, continue to kind of gain knowledge on whatever it is that we'll be doing. So for this specific trip, I've been watching so many videos on the expo, on the race, just making sure that at least one of us in our group is very well-rounded in terms of what is going on, because it is a huge event that none of us have ever been to. So I just want to make sure that it runs as smoothly as possible. And this is also the time where I will watch videos on foods, especially at the festivals at Epcot. I will watch movies that have to do with whatever it is that I'm doing on my trip. So that is really fun as well, and I almost enjoy the trip prep and like anticipation. I don't want to say more than the trip, but it's just like so much excitement every day. It's like a new countdown and a new movie to watch, something just to get you in the mood for your trip, and I just love it. So yeah, love to make sure that I really kind of allocate that time into making sure that I feel excited for my trip and not super stressed. The next thing that I will do is about 3 days before my trip, I like to start packing. So I put all of my outfits into like a big white laundry bin, and they just kind of sit there so that way I make sure I don't wear them. And when I'm ready to try on all of my outfits in front of the mirror and practice posing and stuff, everything is ready to go. All of my accessories are in the bin as well. So I've just found that that works for me. But yeah, about 3 days before, once all of my outfits are ready to go, I will start packing. And the reason I do this about 3 days before is because it gives me an idea of the weight of my suitcase, and also gives me time to really think if I'm forgetting anything, and if I have to run to Target, which I usually do about 1 or 2 days before my trip. That's just what has worked for me, is packing about 3 days before my trip. That is how I plan my Disney trips. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because you do not want to miss all of the super fun trip vlogs that will be starting next week with the Run Disney vlog. I'm so excited to bring you guys along on this trip. So yeah, I will see you next week at the Princess 10K. Bye!